The first work I did in cocktails was actually in grad school. I wrote the first scientific paper on the flavor chemistry of cocktail bitters. Then the next paper I wrote was on the flavor chemistry of old fashions. I'm Dr. Arielle Johnson, flavor scientist, advisor to some of the world's best bars and restaurants, author of the book Flavorama, and this is the Taste Collective. You hear a lot about nature versus nurture, but for flavor, neither one is more important than the other. And today we're going to talk about how nature and nurture work together to create our sense of flavor. We talk a lot about our sense of taste. Often when we say taste, what we actually mean is flavor. And flavor, from a scientific standpoint, is both taste and smell. We have 5 basic tastes, and we use each of them for something specific. Sweet, we use to sense sugars. Salty is the taste of sodium. Sourness, acids. Umami senses the amino acid glutamate, and bitter senses a whole variety of molecules that are toxic to us. But any other flavor is not from taste, it's from smell. Many flavors that feel like tastes, fruitiness or smokiness, for example, those are actually smells that get incorporated with taste to make flavor. While we're experiencing it, it feels very much like taste, like it literally feels like it's happening on your tongue. This is actually like a psychological illusion that your brain creates. So let's say you take a sip of a margarita. The salt on the rim hits your tongue. You feel the sensation of saltiness. You feel the sourness from the lime acids, but the kind of limey, peely, fruity character and all of the earthy and vegetal and really, rich tequila notes, all of that comes from smell. And the way that works is that the smell molecules that are dissolved in the margarita float up the back of your throat and hit your olfactory receptors sort of from the back. And then your brain takes that signal, combines it with the taste signal, and creates this like unified sensation of flavor. Spicy is an example of how we use our sense of touch for flavor. So we're actually activating a pain sensor called the TRPV1 sensor. Capsaicin in chilies can set it off, as can the alcohol in alcohol. So that burn that you feel is really a sensation of heat and pain, just activated by a molecule instead of by heat. The number of taste buds that you have is genetically encoded. So some people naturally have many more than average, some people have fewer than average. People who have many more taste buds than average, scientists have termed super tasters, which sounds like a great thing, like a superpower. It can actually be both a blessing and a curse. If you have the genetics to have, a lot higher taste bud density, you're much more sensitive to tastes, which means that you are especially sensitive to tastes like bitterness. So super tasters often have like a very strong reaction to bitter drinks like Amaro or coffee or even beer or tea sometimes. My husband, for example, is a super taster. He is British, but he does not drink tea because tea is too bitter for him. On the other end of the spectrum, we call the people with fewer taste buds than average hypotasters, and they also tend to be sort of like sensation seeking. So like they not only don't dislike bitter, they'll often like seek out bitter and other intense taste sensations. The fact that we call it a super taster really is a more of a statistical term than a positive or negative one. I do flavor for a living, and I'm a hypotaster. So you do not need to be a super taster to have a great taste experience. And in some cases, it can actually be a bit of a difficulty. Smell is a particularly interesting sense because anytime we smell a smell or sense a flavor, it gets shot directly into our kind of deepest core areas of memory and emotion. So we'll actually have these like emotional associations and like memory recall from a flavor before we even consciously perceive what that flavor is. So if you get cooked a certain dish by your grandmother, or, like Proust, dip your Madeleine in a cup of tea and have had Madeleines many happy times before, every time you taste that again, you're going to like draw up that happy memory. Likewise, if you have an amazing tequila cocktail with 1800 tequila in Mexico and are with friends and having a great and relaxed time, every time you taste that drink after that, you will be transported back directly to those memories and feelings. At our core, humans are a social species, so these kind of shared experiences of food with people are very important for building a sense of community that we actually need to survive. So by having this strong emotional connection to the flavors of food and drink, which we're usually experiencing in the company of other people, we can both enjoy ourselves in the flavor itself, but also strengthen our sense of ties to our community. The reason we have this ability is the way that you learn that a flavor is food and not something that's bad for you is that if you eat it and you feel safe, you store those positive associations with the flavor so that the next time you eat it or drink it, you bring those back up and you know that this is a food that you can eat to, nourish yourself. Taste is complex. It combines both nature and nurture. It uses multiple senses, and understanding just a little bit about how that functions can really enrich our experience as tasters. Check out the rest of our Taste Collective masterclasses to understand more about how we interact with taste.